Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into a really fascinating story. It's from a Vietnamese audio narrative called Vung Kram Kung Ko Lan.
Right, which translates to something like Secretly with Mrs. Lan. We found it on the Choniem Audio YouTube channel. That's Night Story Audio.
And our source material today is actually the transcript from that audio story. So it gives us this incredibly detailed look, doesn't it?
It really does. A window into, well, rural Vietnamese life and this very complex relationship that unfolds there.
So our mission here is basically to unpack this. We want to pull out the main story threads, the tensions between the characters, maybe touch on the cultural stuff that's hinted at.
And figure out where it might be heading, all without getting lost in, like, every single detail.
We're going to try and give you the core narrative and what makes it tick.
Okay.
So, let's dive in. First up, we meet Min.
Yeah, Min, he's our central guy, early 20s, lives in this peaceful village setting, lots of imagery of green rice fields, that sort of thing.
Establishes the scene. And the description of him. Sun-kissed skin, lean but strong. Looks like he belongs there, moves easily through the fields.
Right. But there's this other side to him, isn't there? The script really emphasizes his naivety.
Totally. Especially with women. Says he's 24 and never confesses feelings to anyone. Paints a picture, doesn't it?
It does. A young man focused on work rice fields, construction, and taking care of his elderly mother. His life seems pretty straightforward.
Simple, maybe predictable. You get that sense.
Until Ko Lan comes into the picture.
Ah, yes, Ko Lan. Tell us about her.
Well, she makes an entrance, doesn't she? Described as a renowned beauty in the village. She's married, maybe early 30s.
And there's that specific phrase used, Guy mod con trong mon con met.
It literally means a mother who makes others yearn. It speaks volumes, I think, about this kind of mature, captivating beauty that's really appreciated.
That's interesting. So it's not just youth, it's a different kind of allure. And the description keeps going, Deet nuk da.
Yeah, it's an idiom. It means like full of electricity and water. Very vivid way to say she's shapely, vibrant.
Got it. And fair skin stands out even in simple clothes. She clearly has this presence.
Definitely. But her situation is, well, intriguing. She's married to an older guy, apparently quite strict.
And there's gossip, right, about him maybe being impotent.
Exactly. That's hinted at through village talk. Yet Ko Lan herself seems quite bright, almost free-spirited on the surface. People admire her looks, but maybe also that kind of apparent independence.
Makes you wonder what's going on underneath.
Right. And the transcript mentions that men, like all ages, secretly desire her. So there's this constant undercurrent.
Okay, so that's the backdrop. Then things start to shift towards Minnie.
Yeah, the focus narrows. Ko Lan starts noticing him more. There's this early scene where he's chopping wood.
Right, and she comes over with a fan. Seems simple enough.
But the way she does it, comments on the sun, tells him to be careful. Her voice is described as sweet, maybe a little coquettish.
And the detail about her clothes. A low-cut yellow blouse. He's definitely noticing her, too.
Of course. And she stands really close while fanning him. The script mentions her body brushing against his back sometimes.
Wow, okay. So that physical proximity must have been intense for him.
Yeah, it says he felt a mix of fear and excitement, the sort of unexpected charged attention.
And then she asks him for help.
Asks him to chop firewood at her house. Seems like just a neighborly thing, but given everything else.
It feels like more than that, like a deliberate step.
Mun certainly feels it. He realizes the situation is attractive, but also unsettling. That's the word used.
So he's aware something's shifting. And then she starts at the gifts.
Yeah, small things at first. Hot sticky rice left on his door in the morning.
With a note.
Yeah, signed older sister. Then more substantial things like braised pork, crab soup, nice food.
But it feels like more than just food, right? In that context especially.
Oh, for sure. Min gets it. The transcript uses a phrase, fin la moi, which is like saying it's bait or a lure. He knows there might be a hidden motive. He's not completely naive about that.
Okay. And then there's the layer with his mother getting sick.
Right. Ko Lan steps in, helps out, brings remedies, looks after her.
Which makes things even more complicated for Min, doesn't it? She's being kind to his family.
Exactly. It builds this connection, this obligation almost, while these other more personal things are happening. It's a tangled web.
Which leads us to this big encounter on the porch.
Under the moonlight. She comes over late, wearing a thin pink nightgown. The description is very pointed.
You can imagine the atmosphere. And she sits close.
Very close. He smells her perfume, cheap but strong, it says, and her natural scent. It's described as intoxicating for him.
Overwhelming, probably.
Yeah. And she starts touching his hair, asks if he's sad, hints he might be missing someone.
Testing the waters.
Definitely. Then she gets more direct, talks about male desires, her own unhappy marriage, hints at her own needs.
And then things get physical.
Yeah. She puts her arm around his neck, whispers about her husband being impotent, confirming the gossip, and presses herself against him. It's pretty unambiguous.
So Min is just caught. Desire versus morality, his mom's teachings, the potential fallout.
Huge internal conflict. The script really plays that up.
But in the end...
He gives in. He embraces her back.
And she whispers that line about borrowing a little of his time.
Yes. Leaves no doubt about her intentions.
But they're interrupted.
Just as they're about to kiss, yeah. His mother calls out from inside. Shatters the moment completely.
Startles them both.
They jump apart, flustered. Kolan makes a quick excuse, leaves.
But not before giving him a look.
Right. A significant glance, like, this isn't over.
Wow, okay. So after that close call, the tension must be off the charts.
Absolutely. It says the atmosphere between them becomes really charged. Her looks are more intense now, full of anticipation.
And then his mother leaves town for a few days.
The perfect opportunity.
And Kolan doesn't waste it.
No. She visits him at his house. Bring his favorite food, sticky rice dumplings this time.
And again, the clothes are mentioned.
Yep. A form-fitting, light blue al-baba. The visual details really emphasize her figure, her intention.
She's not being subtle anymore.
Not really. Asks about his meals, offers to cook, even jokes, "Are you afraid I'll eat you?" It's very flirtatious now.
More direct. And then she touches his face.
Mm-hmm. And he sees the desire in her eyes. That's the moment he seems to finally break.
He calls her Koe. Still a bit formal, respectful almost.
Yes. It shows his struggle, right? Trying to fit this into some acceptable framework. Auntie, older sister.
But she corrects him.
Instantly. Tells him to call her M, which can mean younger sister, but here, it clearly means lover.
That's a huge shift, defining the relationship.
Absolutely. And then she leads him, takes him out behind his house.
To the haystack, a place from his childhood.
Yeah, which adds another layer, doesn't it? The familiar becoming, the setting for something forbidden, something new.
The description of the setting is quite evocative, too. Golden haystack, starfruit tree, the smells.
Creates this almost dreamlike sensory atmosphere for their first intimate encounter.
And the encounter itself?
Well, it describes her slowly undressing in the moonlight. Min is just overcome with desire, loses control.
And she guides him.
Yeah, she's clearly more experienced, encourages him. There's a bit of a power dynamic there, too, maybe.
So they cross that line on the haystack.
They do. It's a massive turning point for Min, obviously. The naive young man is gone.
And afterwards, lying there.
Yeah, the light's fading. She asks if he's tired, and she admits something quite telling.
What's that?
She says it's been a long time since she felt truly alive. Gives you a real insight into her own motivations, her own emptiness, perhaps.
That's powerful. And for Min.
It's this sudden realization, you know.
Yeah.
His life has fundamentally changed, and there's this hint of danger, the potential cost hanging over the sweetness of it all.
So the affair begins properly while his mother's away.
Yes. Kolan visits often. Officially, she's helping with chores, bringing food.
But the real reason is clear to both of them.
Oh, yeah. They keep meeting secretly behind the house, strengthening that bond.
How does Min feel during this time?
It's complex. The transcript says he feels satisfied, but also kind of empty afterwards. He's very aware of the risk they're running.
Which leads him to take an even bigger risk.
Right. He gets bolder. Driven by longing, it says. He actually sneaks into her yard late one night.
While her husband's asleep. That's incredibly risky.
Hugely. He hides, waits for her to come out.
To use the outdoor toilet, right?
Yeah. And he startles her, grabs her from behind, whispers what he wants. It's much more assertive from him now.
How does she react?
Scared at first, naturally. But then she gives in, though she does mention being worried about her husband.
So they find somewhere even more secluded.
Mm-hmm. A banana grove behind the toilet, the rustling leaves, the darkness. It all emphasizes how secret and dangerous this is.
And things escalate from there. More frequent meetings.
Yeah, and bolder. They even start using terms of endearment. She whispers, "Chai" to him.
Which means husband.
Yeah. So they're really blurring those lines now, creating this deeper but still forbidden emotional connection.
Min must be torn up inside.
Completely. Guilt warring with excitement. They get better at finding places, moments.
Mm-hmm.
The kitchen, the garden.
Even her bedroom. When the husband's asleep.
Apparently so. The risk level just keeps climbing.
And that fear, that constant threat of being caught.
It probably just intensifies everything, Makes those stolen moments seem even more precious, more potent. Deepens the desire, but also the potential consequences.
So how does this part of the narrative wrap up?
Well, it reflects on Min's state. After every encounter, he feels like a criminal, basically. But he can't stay away. He's drawn to her.
Like a hidden fire, the script says.
Exactly. Intense, burning secretly, but potentially really destructive. It ends with Min thinking about how much his life has changed, this forbidden fruit that's so sweet but could cost him everything.
And the ever-present shadow of her husband looming over it all.
Yeah. So recapping, what we've seen is this incredibly passionate but also really perilous affair developing between the young, inexperienced Min and the more worldly, yearning Ko Lan.
All set against this backdrop of a traditional rural Vietnamese community, which adds its own layer of pressure.
Definitely. And the key themes jumping out are, well, forbidden love, obviously, societal constraints playing a huge role.
The power of desire, how it can just awaken and take over, and the constant escalating risk they're both facing.
Which really leaves you wondering, doesn't it? What happens next? Can a secret like this actually stay hidden in that kind of close-knit village?
Probably not indefinitely. What would happen if it came out? The social fallout, the emotional damage?
Exactly. And maybe on a bigger scale, what does this story suggest about that tension between what individuals want and what society expects? It's certainly a lot to think about.